Okay, so till yesterday we have discussed about control statements and Java definition, Java introduction, variables, data types, keywords, operators, and we have done with the control statements like if else, switch, for loop, while loop, do while loop, break, and continue. So hope you have practiced your programs on these part. So today we'll start with the Java object classes. So already we have understood the concept of class, right? So what is a class and how does this parent class gets derived from the main class? So how we write the main block of the Java class and all, we have already checked it. So today we will learn about the object class which is there in Java. So object class is basically the parent class of all the classes, and it is like by default it is taken as a parent class. So whenever you declare an object class, like main is also an object class. So example, the main class which we write, it is also called as an object class, and this is the parent class of all the classes present in the Java. The object class is like whenever you want to refer any object of any type, we can just use this parent class reference, and then we give the variable. I'll tell you the syntax how you do that. But this is like the main thing is they gets derived from the basic class to the parent class to the object class. Okay, so if you just take a example, there is a classroom, and in that classroom you will have the students' roll number, students' name, and their details, everything. So each student has the same category, but maybe the values are different, but the class is same. So if you want to refer to a candidate in LKG, you will say call the person from this class, like LKG class. So what you do there, you take the variable name and you give the reference like LKG. So LKG is the parent class and you give the reference as student 1. And if you want to call a student 1 from UKG, you give it as UKG dot student 1. So that is how you call a object from another class, and you give the reference of the parent class. So I'll give you the syntax of that. Meanwhile, try to understand the concept, what is an object and what is a class. And so we have different methods of object classes in this complete set. I'm sharing my screen. Let me know once you see it. Is my screen visible?
Yes, Yogeshwari.
Yeah. So now if you just take this object class, you have the method and the description of this method. So there are like almost several type of methods in this object class. So this get class is the object. So this is the method of the object, and this whole thing is the object class. So what does this get class do? So it actually returns the class of the object. So whatever the class is there, let it be main class or let it be any other secondary class, whatever we declared, this get class returns the class of the object. So this can be like we can use this type of get classes to get the exact component what is there in the present class. And the next thing is int hash code. So int is itself states that it is a number, so it returns the number which is present in this hash code. So it returns the hash code number of this particular project. So whatever we call, it gives us the number of that object. And Boolean. So Boolean, as I already it is Boolean equals. So Boolean equals, I mean, we know that it either compares and says it is true or false. So when we create a class with Boolean equals and object, so it compares this object with whatever object we give as a reference. So it compares and returns the value of that. So we need not to say like if conditions and all. You can just check on this, and directly when you're referring to this class, so it gives us the Boolean value, whatever. If it is true, it gives us true. If it is false, it gives us false.
Ma'am,
Yes.
will you share this one?
Yeah, yeah. I will give you this in WhatsApp.
Okay, ma'am. Thank you.
You're welcome. So you have the next method of object is clone. So, as per the word itself, clone means to copy someone. See, if you have a sibling, you say these are clones. They are clones. So it is similar to the the particular class. So whatever class you're taking and whatever you want to clone it, so you use the same object as clone, and you will copy this object to the other object. So what does this clone do? Clone is actually a big subject here. So I mean, apart from the other methods, clone is a different thing, and it's a particular chapter. So if you just see in this clone object, this clone object not only copies the object of the class, but it also stores as a lot of memory. So if suppose I say in an object I'm declaring a variable as int x is equal to something, but when I'm going to a cloning, I need not to declare it again. I can just clone the x variable, so it automatically copies the variable and stores it in its space. But we need not to call the data. Sorry. Hello.
Ma'am, you mean um it will make a duplicate copy, ma'am?
Yes, it will make the duplicate. It's not a duplicate, it's just a copy. Both have their own spaces, both have their own space and their equal number of objects that need to be created. They have their own structure, but it's just copied. Instead of writing the complete program of initialization and then assigning them the values, we just call this clone and then use this clone method, clone bracket. If you use that method, it just have its own set of copying the objects directly. We need not to initiate them again. Are you getting it?
Okay, ma'am.
Yeah. It's like when we are cloning a particular object, we save our processing time. So that is the reason we use this clone in our object. So basically, if I just put it here, so this interface need to be used to call this keyword. Okay. I mean, Java dot language is similar to all the interfaces, but clonable is the interface which need to be used to use this clone object. Only then you will I mean your program will be executed. You will be able to run this program without any errors. The next method class is toString. So in this toString, we are already giving the return value as string. So when this compares with the I mean, when we are calling this object, when we are representing this object, so it returns a string of this representation. So this object is toString is an object, and string is a return value. And notify, it just wakes up the single thread, which means when you're running through a process, this method is getting initiated without any other or manual initiator. So this direct object will initiate that thread, and then that class will run in its own logic. Notify all is like similar to the notify, but there it is a single thread, whereas notify all is like waking up all the threads at one go. So, I mean, these are the class names and the object names. So, going forward, when you're trying to write a program or when you're trying to do some logics, when you're using them, you'll get to know more about this. So this wait itself says it doesn't wait for a long time, but it wait for certain time. Whatever we invoke, we give it to that. Till that time, it waits and then it wakes that thread. So before using notify, if you say wait for 2 seconds, then it will wait for 2 seconds and then it will invoke that thread. So this wait is used. That keyword is used for this particular object. And I mean, next all are similar to that itself. Wait and then interrupted exception will be there. Timeout. These are all similar. It's equal to wait and finalize. Yes, finalize is the last keyword which we use in a final statement. So in this statement, it whatever the I mean errors or whatever the irrelevant exceptions are arising in the programming, these all get stored in this finalized thing. So this after coming to the finalized object, I mean finalized class, if you want to throw an exception with some certain number, if you say you got an error but that is not that important to the system but it is important for you, you want to throw an error to the user when this arises. So you say when this type of error comes, please break and then return to the user. So in that type, you can use this finalize object. Okay. So this is all about the method object class. So like I'll give you some examples where you can easily understand what is this class and what is this object. Okay. See, suppose as I already gave you one example, classroom is the class, whereas students are objects. And in our real life, life is the class. I mean to say, okay, in our real life, we have certain parameters like we will be having our home, we'll have a vehicle, and we'll have our office, everything, right? So suppose if you take car as an thing, so this car is an object, whereas life is a cycle. I mean, life is a class. So in our life as a class, we have car as an object, and that car will have certain type of attributes like weight, color, engine number, how many number of seats and all. So these are all under the attributes of the car. So we have life as a class, car as an object. So in the same life class, you can even clone this car as an object to other object also. Okay. So car would be an one object and home would be another object. Employee would be I mean, office would be another object. So in these objects have different attributes again. So car will be having weight and color, but home will be having number of rooms and number of doors, and office will be having number of employees and number of domains or departments. So this is how a class, object, and an attribute is related. Did you understand this basic structure?
Yes.
Yeah, if you have doubt in this, let me know, because this is the basic structure of Java. You have to realize it, and then you can going forward, you can actually relate what is object, what is attribute, and what is class easily. Okay. So we create a class, right? The main is our class. So we create a class with the syntax public class main. So that is the basic syntax of class. So let me write in the same document so that going forward you can have it in hand. You're able to see this document, right? I mean, public class main is my syntax class. And then I have syntax for object. So in the class, now you go for an object. So like I say, in my public class main, I have initiated a certain object like int x is equal to 5. This is my variable, not an object. This is my variable. Now I will create an object with public static void name. Okay. In this, I create guys. You're really like joining very late. I almost completed my introduction part and I've started the syntaxes also. And if you join so late, you will not be able to understand. So now in this part, what I'm doing is, so this is my other class where I am trying to invoke my object. So I'll create an object, suppose name it as x, I mean not x. I'll create my object, okay, my object, my obj, with the class main, which means I want to invoke this particular variable into my object. So what I will do, so guys, getting it? This is the classroom. And in this class, we have the student. This is the student. Now I am creating an object where I have to call the student. So what I'll do first, I'll create the object of this class, complete class. So I will create it as a class name. This main is my class name. So that class name will be my object name, my obj. This is a manual one which we can give any name. If you want some y also you can give. So this is my object name, and I am calling this as a new object. So new of main means I have created object for this main class. I have created an object. Now I will call my variable in that object. So let me tell you, I want to print I want to print the object which is there in, I mean, I want to print the value of the variable which is there in this main class. So what do? I'll call my object because this is my object and this is pointing to the main class, this class. So in that class, I want to get the value of x. I mean, I want to get the value of that variable. So my object, whatever I created, dot x. So this gives me the value of x. So the value would be printed as, can anyone tell me what would be the value printed output?
The 5. 5 it will be printed.
Yeah, so it is 5. So this is how I create an object. This is how the main part of creation of object comes. So creation of object is something related to the class which for which the object need to be created, and the object name which we want, which is giving up the class, calling up the class. Okay. So this is how we create an object, and then we take up the alias values of this variables. So my object is already linked with the class. So I can tell that it is like class pointing to the variable. So in my YYY, I already have LKG. So X would be the student name. Okay. Any doubt? Guys, any doubt in this? So like this, you can actually
No, ma'am.
have multiple classes. Oh, okay. So you can have multiple classes and multiple objects, and you can create multiple objects also for each class, and then get yourself called upon with this alias names. Okay. So, but the syntax would be the same. Even if you have n number of classes, the syntax is the same. Class name, whatever you want, then the object name, which you can specify, which is equal to the new of that class name bracket. Okay. So shall we move on to the second part? Oops, concepts. If you want, I'll wait for a while so that you can just have some knowledge on this. Oops concept I'll just introduce, because going forward you can learn more, like in whatever the concepts are there. Okay, I'm moving forward now. So as you all know, Java is an object oriented programming language. So whatever the procedural programming or whatever the procedures we are writing in this to perform the logic, whatever we want according to the result, we use this object oriented programming as like creating objects, or which contains both the datas and methods. We create these objects, right? So these are all depending upon the object orientation only. So this is where it calls as object oriented programming, because we create the objects for a particular attribute or for a particular method, and then we use this. Because guys, I already told you Java is like faster, and it is easier to execute, and we can actually portable it to anywhere. We can move it to any of the systems whenever we want. We can just create the environment, we can just write the program, and we can work on it. And also this, like when you are compiling it, it throws the errors. So whatever the errors are thrown, you can just sit and check on the errors and rectify them. So that is where this Java is mainly having this object oriented programming, because all these features are under oops also. So that is where it has been dragged to Java. Java and OOPS are almost one and the same, but Java has some extensions which are not feasible for OOPS. Cannot be run on any of the environment. Only the Unix or Linux can hold this OOPS, but Java is like feasible for every environment. Okay. So now coming to the main OOPS concepts. So we have inheritance, data binding, polymorphism, encapsulation, abstraction. Whatever the Java concepts are holding are all from OOPS concepts itself. So if you have the best knowledge on this, Java basics would be easy for you, and you can just pick yourself onto core Java. So here, the major part of this object-oriented languages, apart from C++ and Java, we have C Hash, Python, PHP, which are also based on this basic language. So the main, as I already told you, like object is something which is a whole entity. Like if you just take an example, as I already told you, life is a whole entity in which you will be having different attributes or different objects inside it. So if you take it as a life is a glass, and then where we can have this car, home, whatever are their objects. Even the small things like your pen, your chair, your table also comes under this objects. So object doesn't have any limit. It can, like, we can have n number of objects in any class. So these objects and class and objects will be related. We can design this program using this OOPS concept. So object oriented programming is a methodology for this complete object and classes. We can design a program using this methods and everything. So this actually develops and simplifies our complete software development, and we can have some more concepts like abstraction, polymorphism, encapsulation, inheritance, and everything. So we can work on this easily, and when we are able to understand these concepts, you can put them according to our logic and whatever is needed at your end. So apart from this abstraction and all basic concept, you even have coupling, cohesion, association, aggregation, composition. These are all small chapters, but they are like encapsulated with bigger topics like encapsulation is having with composition, and polymorphism will be like relevant to the aggregation. So these are all the topics which are related in this OOPS itself. So basically it is what do you say, the same thing what which we want. And I'll give you a small part of this introduction. You can have this noted anywhere. You're maintaining your running notes, right? So I'm just reading it out. You can have your own sentences and write it. Okay, is that okay, or do you want me to on my video so that you can understand more easily? What say, guys? Do you want me to read out, or do you want me to write it down, or do you want me to on my video and explain you?
You can read out.
Okay, okay, okay. So coming out to the object again. So as I already told you, these are all like small objects. Even are related to our daily usage. We use all the small objects like bed, chair, pencil, pen. Everything comes under this object. But their attributes would be different. Like if you are talking about an object bed, you will be having color of the bed, legs of the bed, and cot of the bed, color of the cot, and it's a size of the bed. So all these are attributes of the bed. So these are all attributes of the object. So coming to the class, collection of objects like bed is an object, chair is an object, and car is an object. So collection of these three are under your one class. So suppose if you maintain a class, say home. So I want to have a home in class name as home, and I want to divide these objects in that home. So n number of classes, n number of objects in each class, you can just relate it accordingly. Okay. And coming to inheritance, so I used the word inheritance a long time ago. So what does this inheritance say? So according to the word itself, when an object is acquiring all the properties, when it is having all the properties and behavior of the parent object, it is known as inheritance. So similarly in your life, if you are having if you're having nose as same as your father, if you're having the features same as your mother, they say you are inherited, as per your dad or mom. So this is all called as inheritance. So a dog baby looks like a dog, so that is what inherited. And a dog baby cannot look like duck, so that there is no relation of inheritance there. So that is how this inheritance concept comes. So in inheritance in something, the definition goes is like when one object have all the properties and behavior. So guys, write this line: when one object have all the properties and behavior of the parent object, it is known as inheritance. So I'm just dropping out the statement. When one object have all the properties and behaviors of a parent object, it is known as inheritance. Okay. So next would be polymorphism. Polymorphism is if one task is there, there is one task and it is performed in different ways. It is known as polymorphism. So if they say, I mean, there are like few people in the there is a cabin and there are like four people in the cabin, and one says Gujarati, one talks Telugu, one talks Hindi, and one talks English. So there is a person coming inside and say, uh, "What do you call mother in your language?" So Gujarati fellow will say ma, and Telugu will say amma, English say mother, and Hindi says ma. So they're like different ways of the same word. So this is called as polymorphism. The output would be the same. Task is only one, but there are n number of ways. So we can do it in n number of ways. So if another example is like if somebody comes and tell you to draw differently, to draw something differently, then what you will do? Will you draw differently, or will you stick with only one type of thing? You will draw a circle. I mean, he'll ask you to draw different shapes, and using different shapes, draw some differently. So you use a circle, draw many circles around the circle, and you show some object there. You use triangle in the similar way. You use rectangle, and you show him in a different ways. But you are using the same concept of drawing. Here you drawing only the circle with the circles, triangle with the triangles. So this is how the polymorphism comes up. So basically, keep it in mind that I mean, the first example, when you go into a cabin and says about mother, there the word is same, the task is same, but the performance of the task is different. So if I say one task, if any one task is performed in different ways, it is known as polymorphism. Let me write up for you in the chat box. If one task is performed in different ways, then it is known as polymorphism. Okay. So in polymorphism, we have this method overloading and method overriding. So how does this goes up is the set of this method overloading and method overriding. So if says, I mean, going forward, you can actually learn about overloading and overriding, like doing it in many ways and doing it in similar ways. That is called overloading and overloading. We will learn more about it in our future classes. But as of now, try to understand what is polymorphism. Doing one task in different ways is known as polymorphism. So coming to our next, it is abstraction. Abstraction, the word itself says we are abstracting something. So we are hiding something. So hiding some of our details, internal details, and only showing the functionality is known as abstraction. So you have a logic and you want to run it. So we use this abstraction method, but there are some basic logic terms which you don't want to show it to the customer. Those are like we need to hide it. So those hiding of those internal details and showing up only the functionality is known as abstraction. So how can I give you an example? So there is okay
Mobile
yeah.
phone is example.
Yeah, so there is a mobile phone, and mobile phone is something like you have this mobile phone in your thing, but what exactly is happening in the mobile phone you don't know. So that is completely hidden. What are the parts? So nowadays we are getting a mobile phone where we can't even remove the back part. So whatever the charge, I mean, whatever the battery is there, or whatever camera we are using, they are all hidden. You know the names of the camera and how much pixel and everything, but how does it look like? That is a hidden part, right? So hiding such internal details and just showing the functionality is known as abstraction. Just note this definition, guys. And hope you're having these examples also, because when in the interview, during your interview, they'll ask you these I mean definitions. So first of all, to pull out the definition from your this thing, you need to understand the logic. So if you just say inheritance, then yes, okay, something like inherited. Uh, just think of the example and then put out it in the definition. Then you will not forget it. And similarly, polymorphism and abstraction. So just remember the examples and write it down when you're maintaining your notes. So write down these examples. Those are more important than these definitions. And next, it is encapsulation. So encapsulation is similar to our capsule. So we know that there is a lot of chemical that is required to treat our disease. So what does the medicine do? They put all those chemicals that are required. I mean, whatever the composition. If you just take a tablet, so if you just take a tablet, you can see it at the back end that there is a composition. I mean, iron is having this percentage, and there is some carbon also there, which is having some percentage. There are different chemicals, and they have their own percentages. So how get this all be put it in thing? You can't put one by one, right? So what they do, they mix up everything, they put it in a capsule for us, and they give us. So this is how it is encapsulated. So binding up all the data or all the code into single unit is known as encapsulation. So we have a Java class, right? Basically, and what we do in the Java class, we do n number of logic. So I want to print even, I want to print odd number, whatever the logic is there, the complete coding is done under this class. So that is how this encapsulation concept came. So binding the code together, code and data together into a single unit is known as encapsulation. So example is, you have this tablet as a best example. Okay, so that is known as encapsulation. Now coming to this coupling. So coupling is something related to the knowledge, or I mean whatever the information of another class is there, or a dependency of another class. We use this coupling method. So this class, whatever we are trying to couple, it has the information of other class also. The example is couples itself. If you just take a role of the wife knows where the husband is going, where the husband has the, what is this mobile phone, or whatever the details with respect to the husband are known to the wife. So that is how this coupling goes. One class will have the knowledge information about the other class. So under this, we use private, protected, and public. So whatever is required, we use it accordingly. And cohesion. Just a second, guys. I'm getting a call. Yeah. So that is what about coupling. So coupling, you can just write. Take depending upon the others. I mean, depending upon the other class, having the knowledge or information of dependency class is known as coupling. Okay. So the next would be cohesion. Cohesion, it is like level of the component which performs a single task, but that single task is like very well defined. But if you have a task which is not that defined, or it is not well defined, then you will split the task into separate parts. So cohesion is something related to unrelated classes, or whatever the unrelated data is there. that it coheses the data and then give us a single task which is very well defined. So what can we say is like example would be, okay, you're having a function, and whereas the entry system is having the input and output. So only the input and output is a well-defined task. So if you just give a guard, says that whoever in comes in should goes out, please check on that task. That is known as cohesion. But if you say go and inside and check whatever the in person is coming and doing it, it would be unrelated to the guard. So this is how this cohesion works, and it refers to the single task. It only takes up only single task, and that need to be well defined. So this is how this cohesion goes. It refers to the level of the component which performs a single well defined task. So the next will be association. So in association, whatever we represent the relationship between the objects, so it's like you have different objects, right? One is like car, one is like laptop, and one is something else. You will be having a relation among this. So you can put the laptop in the car, but not the car into the laptop. So there are certain type of relations, and those relations are being mapped according to our uh, necessity. So this is what called as association. Car can be associated with any number of objects like laptop, water bottle, a seat, and mirror, anything. But from the back operation, it won't happen. If you just take a laptop, you will have only laptop or the charger, but you can't relate it to any other objects which you want. So we in association we have four types of association. That is one to one association, one to many, many to one, and many to many. So there are four types of association in this. And if you just go with the real time examples, what we can say is uh, we have we have only one life, but we can have many tasks in that. We can do many tasks in our life, but the life is single. So it is one to many associations. So if you say is many to one, then what could be the example as many to one? Okay, as a student, when you are in the class, you are the student, but you will have many subjects. So you only have to learn it, but there are many subjects for that. So many to one, the subjects are more there, but there is only one student. The relation between subjects and students is like many to one. If I say what is the relation between subjects and teachers, can anyone tell me what is the relation between subjects and teachers? Anyone? Can one subject has many teachers? Like if suppose science is there, science can have two or three teachers, right, in the same school. So it is one to many relation. And even a teacher can teach n number of subjects. If there is a science teacher, he even can teach maths also, sometimes in like lower classes and all. So there the relation would be many to many. Many teachers can teach many subjects. So this is how the relation goes, and this is what called as association. So, and one more thing, guys, association can be in both the ways. Life is one where you have many tasks. Many tasks can be done in one life. This is both the direction, unidirectional as well as bidirectional. So association represents the relation between the objects, and there are four types of associations: one to many, many to one, many to many, and one to one. Guys, is it getting bored? I mean, that's the theory part, right? So let me complete with the other two parts. We can just close the session for today. So the next would be aggregation. Aggregation is the way where we can build this relationship between the objects. So it is the way how to build the relation between these objects is known as aggregation. So to achieve the association, which means to achieve the relationship, we use aggregation. So mostly it's just the process to how we can. Okay, let's say husband and wife there, and you're relating them. I mean, you're giving a process of aggregation through marriage. So aggregation, marriage is the aggregation, and wife and husband relationship is the association. That would be the example of aggregation as well as association. And here association, the function is one to one. It is not one to many or many to many, nothing. It is only one to one, the relationship between them. Okay. And we have composition. Yeah, we have composition. The composition is also the same, like the word itself says, it is a process. So to build this relationship between one object containing other objects also, then we do is composition. If it is only one to one single, then that is a aggregation. But if it is multiple, then it is a composition. Suppose you say mother, child 1, child 2. You have three objects here, and you're maintaining the relations between mother and child 1, mother and child 2. This is like one to one itself, but you're having multiple objects. That is where the composition comes up. So the composition is also a way of association, but in this composition, it represents a relationship where one object has the other object also. Okay, so this is all about the aggregation, composition, cohesion, and association. Association and coupling. Coupling. I hope you got all the definitions now, right? So we are done with two classes. I mean, two subjects now. Tomorrow we will learn about method, constructor, static keyword, and this keyword. Uh, so I want you people to just have an assignment of this as a essay type. Write all the Java oops concept in a word or notepad or whatever you want, and just send it to me. Okay. So your assignment would be assignment 3, right? Write about oops concepts. So try to save all these definitions, guys, in your chat box, whatever I'm sending it. Save this wherever you want. You can just have this definition, one example, so that in future, whenever you're going before the interview, you can just read out this once in your mind and you can leave for that. That's the reason I'm asking you people to maintain this as a notes. It would be better for you. Even if I give it in word pad, it will not get into your mind. So try to write this with your own words and try to understand these concepts. And while tomorrow while coming sorry guys, tomorrow I will not be taking the class. We will meet again on Monday evening at the same time, 8 o'clock. So Monday we will close up with the other classes, and then we will have a program class on that day, because we'll be using the methods and all. So we will do that on Monday. Any doubts on today's class or the previous classes?